Just been looking at lines where black captured on c4 on move 5 and white played bishop g2, and so far we have just been looking at lines where black ignored the control over the e5 square by playing b5 immediately. But there's another interesting possibility by playing knight bd7 first. So of course this can also be done on move 5 earlier, but generally this is a kind of transposition, but you should be aware of the move order. So what I would like to show you now is some other critical lines based on some games I also played myself. So after castling, black played b5 right now, and here you see the difference that white cannot continue by playing knight e5, as the knight on b7 controls the e5 square. So after b5, white should look for a different approach, and the best way he could do it, in my opinion, is by playing the move e4. There's another possibility by playing the move bishop g5 instead, and that has mainly been popularized by the expert on white side, Oleg Romanishin, the Ukrainian theoretician, who has some very instructive games in that line. But I think move e4 on move 8 offers white better prospects nowadays, especially with computer assistance. I think there are some interesting possibilities for white here. And as we have seen in other lines, one of the points of by playing the move e4 is to force a central thrust, and he has two possibilities. He can either go for a move like d5 or a move like e5. So let's have a look at the main continuations. So after bishop b7, this is the main continuation. I think that white should no longer look for a thrust connected with d5, as the bishop takes care about the d5 square. But now the move e5 is a very critical continuation. So let's assume that black plays the move knight d5, white continues with the move knight g5, very powerful move, as it opens the route for the queen to join the events on the king side, as it immediately threatens mate on f7. So here are some possibilities, and I would like to show a couple to you guys. So let's see what happens if black plays h6, trying to kick the knight away. But there is a very strong sacrifice by taking on e6. Knight takes e6, and now white plays queen h5. And now more or less black will start regretting the fact that he has played with his h-pawn, as he cannot play g6 really right now anymore. So after queen h5, there follows king e7, and now the best move here is to play knight e4 first before playing bishop g5 check. So right now there are some problems for black, as white is threatening to invade with the knight on d6, threatening mate on f7 and attacking the bishop as well. So black has to do something about that, and the most, at least the best continuation is to play a move queen e8, and now white is forced to give check on g5, as otherwise he has to retreat his queen and then black can solve his problems. So let's see how it goes. H takes g5, queen takes h8, and here are some possibilities for black. One of them is queen g6, which is not the best move, I think, but after knight d6 the bishop is hanging. So let's see, the bishop goes to a6, bishop e4, attacking the queen, and now after queen h6, white has the move queen g8, very nice move, as it's about to invade with check on f7. So after queen h5, it's a question how white should strengthen his attack. I want to play a move like f4, trying to open the f-file, but right now it's not entirely clear, as in some lines the knight may go to e3. I think that here the white's best continuation is to give up the light squared bishop by taking on d5, bishop takes d5, c takes d5, and only now to push the f pawn. After g takes f4, rook takes f4, black has to be extremely careful as the f7 square is extremely weak. So here black should go for knight e5, and after d takes e5, queen takes e5, there are some problems for the knight on d6, and it's not entirely clear if white is better at all, as white's king is also pretty exposed. But of course we're not playing checkers, so white is not forced to take with the pawn on e5 right away, and instead the move rook e1 is way stronger. So after, for example, king takes d6, rook takes e5, black is forced to go back with his queen to e8 to protect the bishop on f8. But after rook takes f8, queen takes f8, there's queen e6, king c7, queen a6. And although material is even now, the pawn on b5 will fall, or pawn on d5. It's not entirely clear, and of course this line is not forced at all, but I hope you will see some typical ideas for white how to build up the attack against the black king by pushing the f-pawn and bringing first the knight to d6. So this is very interesting line, and for sure the move queen g6 is not the best. Better is to play king d8, trying to run away with the king from the danger. So after king d8, there could follow a move like knight takes g5, bishop c8. This is one of idea that the pawn on e6 is a serious weakness. So black doesn't have to worry about the move like bishop h3, attacking once again the pawn on e6. So after bishop c8, there are some interesting attacking possibilities for white as well. For example, c takes d5, and now white is about to play f4 once again, threatening to open the f-file by pushing the f-pawn one square further. And in case black decides to trying to stop it by playing g6, there could follow a move like queen g8, attacking the pawn on e6. So knight b6 is a logical continuation for black, but after knight f7, king takes c7, queen takes g6. So far we have been following the game between Polish players Olszewski and Drozdowski, played in Katowice 2011. Play is very unbalanced, and it's hard to assess whose chances are really better here. From a practical point of view, I would definitely prefer to play with the white pieces here, especially because white has a very simple plan of advancing his pawns on the king side, and his h-pawn will be very quick. Sometimes white can also play g4 and f5. While on the other hand, black has the majority on the queen side, but as long there are two rooks connected to each other on the back rank, it's not so easy for black to do something concrete against it. So that's how I think white should play against this line with h6. So let's have a look at another possibility, which is the move bishop e7, developing the bishop, and after queen h5, black decides to play g6. Queen h6, threatening to go inside to g7, and after bishop f8, queen h3, there are some possibilities here as well. And well, after bishop e7, black can hope to force a repetition, but of course more challenging is to play knight ce4, when white can play moves like knight d6 under certain circumstances, forcing black to give up his dark squared bishop, after which it becomes clear that black's position has been seriously weakened by having all the pawns on the light squares, weakening the dark squares. So for example, after queen b6, knight d6 is very strong, bishop takes d6, e takes d6, and here white is threatening to take on e6. So after knight f8, rook fe1, white had a very strong initiative in the game. Cordova Debashis in the World Championship for juniors in 2010. There are some other possibilities, of course, and bishop e7 is not forced at all. So let's have a look at queen b6, which has been tested in the game Svirts against Shirov, also played on Polish soil in 2010. And here white played the move knight takes e6, which is a mistake, and probably it has been based on a miscalculation, as after f takes e6, queen e6, bishop e7. The move bishop g5 isn't that strong, as here black can defend himself by playing knight f8, attacking the queen, and of course when you have to retreat your queen in such a way, it's not the attack is not going according to white's wishes. But instead, after queen b6, I would recommend an improvement for white to play the move knight c e4, which is a much better move. And now queen d4 doesn't look so good because of knight takes e6, f takes e6, queen takes e6, bishop e7, and now white wins by means of knight d6, attacking at least the bishop on b7 as well. So you see that after knight c e4, the queen on b6 doesn't do such a good job, as d4 cannot be taken. And well, black has some problems, as in all lines there are some sacrifices with on f7 and e6. Definitely there are some other possibilities, but it at least shows the chances white has in this line. So let's go a little bit back, as instead of bishop b7, which prevents white to advance with his d-pawn, there is the move bishop to e7, which has the aim that e5, knight e5 makes less sense now, as the knight on f3 cannot go to g5. So after bishop e7, the move e5 cannot really be recommended. But instead, white should try to profit from the fact that the bishop is not on b7 yet, covering the d5 square. So very strong here is the move d5, which have been successfully employed against grandmasters Kardanov and Iskushny, both played in 2007. And let's have a look at some lines. For example, c takes d5, e takes d5. The mass of exchanges clearly favors white, as the opening of the center allows the queen to attack the rook on a8 while the king is still stuck in the center. And now knight b6 can strongly be met by queen takes d8, bishop takes d8, and now a good move is knight d4, attacking the rook on a8 and also the pawn on b5, but after rook b8 there follows bishop f4. And here you see the strength of the bishops in this particular system. Well, after d5, black is not well advised to take, but he should rather focus on the move b4, which I've been facing in both of my games. And after d takes e6, f takes d6. In the first game with Kardanov I played the move knight e2, but black got some advantage by playing e5, taking away the d4 and f4 square for the knight. So generally this is kind of okay for black, and I failed to get an advantage, although I won a very important game. I think later on I found an improvement by playing the move e5, which I played with Iskushny in the Aeroflot tournament. After b takes c3, e takes f6, bishop takes f6, b takes c3, I think that white has the better chances here. Well, it's not so simple at all, as black has a pawn up, but on the other hand his pawns are seriously weak, and white has to prove something. But it's much easier to play for white, as he doesn't risk anything. His position is very solid, his king is safe. while white's plan could be to play moves like knight d4, attacking the weaknesses on e6 and c6, and also moves like bishop a3 come into consideration. So definitely this is something white doesn't have to fear at all.